Hi, Jerry Nelson, Life Coach. Welcome to my video on constructive anger. And this is chapter 5 or lesson 5, changing self-abusive anger into constructive anger. And this is a difficult thing for me to try to say to you about how you're going to change your destructive or abusive, self-abusive anger into positive, constructive anger. What we're going to do, therefore, in this lesson is we're going to give you suggestions and ideas and ways to kind of self-assess so you can figure out what it is you want to accomplish or what you want to change. One of the things I wanted to talk about is there's kind of two kinds of depression. I'm in northern Minnesota. In the wintertime we have seasonal affective disorder. People get depressed because there's not enough light. People can get depressed for other reasons too, where it's a physical reason rather than a interactional or a psychological reason. Now, we're not talking about those kinds of depression when we're talking about interacting here on our anger. We're talking about ways to create better interactions so that you feel better about your life. So one of the dynamics is that depression sometimes comes from anger which has come from terrific pain. For example, post-traumatic stress disorder or other things like that happen like that, creating depression because of severe trauma. And if you've gone through that kind of a thing, my suggestion would be to get some guide with you. Get a good friend, get an understanding person from church, get a counselor, get a pastor, get somebody that can help you through processing severe anger. We're not going to deal with that as much as we're going to deal with normal, everyday anger generating things. Now, self-abusive anger, how do we define that? Well, I would define self-abusive anger as any kind of anger that hurts yourself, where you're not taking care of yourself. Now, you may be angry, shoot someone and end up in jail. That was self-abusive anger. You didn't actually hurt yourself directly, you hurt yourself indirectly and ended up destroying your life in that particular scenario. We're talking about not only things that you do internally, but things that you do externally that result in abuse against you. One of the ways to clear anything that you've done in the past that may be causing results now, or anger now, or self-abuse, or non-taking care of yourself now, is to go through forgiveness process. And I would highly recommend reading wisdom literature like the Bible on forgiveness. For example, things like the King James Version of the Bible says, "Let not the sun go down on your wrath." Well, all it's really saying is, hey, don't let your anger build up. Every day, forgive people, forgive yourself, go to bed, rest, come up and do another day. And so forgiveness or inventory taking in 4-step work is a way of keeping the slate of your existence clean of things that are abusing you. Now, let's just go over some suggestions of abusive anger and some suggestions of ways to have anger and not be abused. For example, many people are angry at life, see life as hopeless and different things, so they use chemicals. They might smoke, they might drink alcohol, they might use drugs, they might use food as a way to eat their emotions, as a way to overcome the bad feelings by putting food in that makes them feel good. Other ways that are self-abusive would be like physical abuse. Some people cut themselves. Some people hit a wall and break a wrist. Some people break other things, throw plates, do verbal abuse, yelling their anger at someone else. So it gets the anger out of them, but it destroys relationships when you are verbally abusive and condemnatory or discounting to other people. So you taking your anger out on others in any way like this, pretending it didn't happen. You doing the silent treatment, or denying in your own self that you really are angry, or denying that this anger thing even happened. So denial is a huge way that people accomplish abusing themselves by not processing their anger. Kick the dog, you know, do some physical activity, but not appropriate activity. Punching a hole in the wall we mentioned. So those are ways that are less effective, ineffective, or totally self-destructive for you in processing the energy that's in your anger. Now remember, we all have expectations, and we've gone over it to lower expectation reduces anger, but there's times when we have expectations and we're generating anger. So what are some effective ways, some strategies on how to effectively deal with your anger? And before I get into that, I want to just have you think about, how do you know when you're angry? And for example, for me, I'll get muscle tics. They just won't quit moving, and I may be denying in my mind that I'm angry, but my body does not. Some people might get stomach pains. Some people would have headaches. Any kind of physical manifestation. So when you're trying to get to appropriate ways to express your anger, finding it, first of all, is probably the most critical thing. And then, after you have a physical manifestation or some other way that you've found that your anger exists, then we can go into these strategies of dealing with it appropriately. Anger is an energy force. So any kind of activity that you do that requires physical activity, it might be exercising, it might be going for a walk, it might be swimming, and whatever, any kind of physical activity. Now that not only will deal with the energy of anger coming out, but it also creates in your body the release of endorphins that actually are feel-good chemicals, so you're getting a double result, a double benefit out of that kind of an activity. You could read a book. For me, I do reading of books like Discovering Choices in Al-Anon, or any of the other active books in Al-Anon. But you could read a book for pleasure. Some people get a high degree of pleasure out of just reading a book. Well, be careful of the topic. Be sure that the topic isn't increasing your anger rather than lowering it. Could play a game. Be sure to win. You might get more angry if you don't win, but then again, you might not win. So anyway, play for the fun of playing. Call a friend, call a counselor, call a person you respect in the community. Process is to talk out your anger, to get in touch with the fact that you have anger, and then to process it. Watch a movie, talk to your pet, love a dog, do meditation, do prayer, do yoga, and you can create I am statements. Now, we're going to go into that in a later lesson, but what an I am statement is an affirmation. In other words, we might be angry because we're not earning enough money. Well, we can say I am and then put an amount of money in there that creates a goal or an affirmation of answering the problem that is causing the anger. So if you have some anger areas that you need affirmations in, need some new hope, need some new direction, need some focus, then do I am statements as a way to deal with your anger. Now, in order to pass this course, this particular lesson, in order to pass this particular lesson, I have some things for you to do. Number one is list abusive angers you do now, maybe 1, maybe 5, whatever makes sense to you. And these are abusive angers, systems, habits, behaviors that you do now, but that you're going to not do. You made a decision to not do these, so that if you end up doing them, you realize you're crossing your new boundary. And then the process of forgiving yourself. List at least one thing that you have done that has generated poor results or anger on you from other people or anger from yourself, and forgive yourself of that, and make a list that of many, if you want, or one, but make a list of things you forgive yourself of. So that's a way to process your anger in better or best style. Wish you well, and if you need some strategies, we'll probably have a blog associated with this where you can learn strategies other people have used in dealing with their anger. With that, I'll close. This is lesson 5, changing your abusive anger into constructive anger. And I'm Jerry Nelson, life coach. Thank you for watching the video.